What is up, suppers? It is Dives, Mr. Crackpot on Twitter. Welcome to the Suit Up Podcast. The Suit Up Pod can be found on iTunes and Spotify. Smash that subscribe button, guys. If you're here watching us on YouTube, joining me today is my man Lo, and today we are talking about Star Wars Light of the Jedi, The High Republic by Charles Soule. We're going to react to Chapter 1. We're going to talk about our top takeaways. Lo, are you ready to suit up?
Let's suit up.
Let's suit up.
I am Iron Man.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
The Force will be with you, always.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun.
I do this all day. What's but a smile on that face?
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
All right, guys, joining me today is my man, our co-host. He is Loretto. Follow him on Twitter at Marcellus Durden, part of Movies Matrix. What's going on, Lo?
How you doing, sir? You know, aside from the fact that my hair feels like a trapper hat that I can't take off, I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah, baby. We're talking Star Wars today. I'm so excited. Chapter 1 of Star Wars Light of the Jedi, The High Republic by Charles Soule just came out. And we're going to just kind of talk about our top reactions. But before we get started, what do you got going on at Movies Matrix, man?
All right, man. So I just dropped a new hashtag Remember Wednesday piece. I looked back at the Freddy versus Jason, the epic buildup, the long development hell that it went through just to get on the screen. I mean, they were talking about it in '87, didn't come out to '03. But when it finally came, I loved it. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. Anybody that's interested in horror, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, check it out at moviesmatrix.com. And last thing, we got a lot of stuff in store for DC fandom, so DC fans, check that out as well.
And if you love comic book movies, we're holding the final 4 of the comic book movie draft. Our top 4 are going at it starting tomorrow night. It is over at Suit Up TPL on Twitter. Cast your vote. You know, let us know what your favorite comic book movies are. It's going to be a lot of fun. And after that, we're going to hold an greatest animated movies of all time draft. That's going to be an absolute blast. Everything's fair game. Disney, Pixar, DC, animated, anime, you name it. So it's going to be freaking wild. That's coming up in a couple weeks. So check out the Suit Up Podcast on Twitter. That is at Suit Up TPL on Twitter. So excuse me, Lo, but I'm gonna go summarize what exactly is going on in the Star Wars universe. It was recently announced that Star Wars: The High Republic is this multi-pronged publishing initiative that will shed light on the galaxy like 200 years before the events of the prequel trilogy. In the process, we're going to learn about this event known as the Great Disaster, and we're going to see the Jedi confront an enemy called the Nile. What is the Great Disaster? Who are the Nile? We're going to touch on that in a little bit. But the High Republic is this golden era that takes place during the Old Republic. It is a period of like peace. It is a period of prosperity. In the High Republic, the Jedi believe they have finally vanquished the Sith. Not going to happen. But, you know, they finally brought order to the galaxy. Very little is known in regards to the High Republic this time frame. So to me, that's what makes this so fresh and so interesting. So the story of the High Republic is going to be told in multiple publishing phases. The first phase is going to be dubbed The Light of the Jedi, which we're going to be talking about today. And then following this one, Lucasfilm has already kind of revealed 2 more novels. It's going to be The High Republic Into the Dark by Claudia Gray, and it's going to be The High Republic: A Test of Courage by Justina Ireland. So keep a lookout for that. But to sum up, you know, the current times, there's a Chancellor, Lina So, that leads the Republic from the elegant city world of Coruscant, you know, right in the bright center of the galactic core. Keep that in mind because we're going to be talking a lot about that. And the story kind of involves the Outer Rim. And these are worlds that are filled with opportunity and a ton of danger. And the Outer Rim is like a haven for anyone seeking to escape the laws of the Republic. It's filled with predators, assassins, bounty hunters, you name it. So Chancellor So has like pledged to bring the Outer Rim into the inner core, the galactic core, and to do that, Jedi Knights have kind of created outposts all around the Outer Rim to help those in need and bring them, into the Republic. So the High Republic is a time of peace. The Outer Rim is absolutely not. Any quick takes on that before we get into chapter 1, man?
I will say I'm a little bit of a novice when it comes to the Star Wars EU and their other previous novels. The only one I've ever read, I think, was like The Glove of Darth Vader that came out in the 80s or something like that. And they were like searching for his glove, and it had certain powerful characteristics. But going into this, I came in totally blind, and I will say at the end of reading that short chapter 1 preview, I was blown away.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that, and that was kind of like before we get into chapter 1, like I was a sponge, man. I was a sponge because I'm so tired. We've talked about the Skywalker saga, and I'm kind of so intrigued by this. So I was a sponge, man. I just took everything I could read and just kind of went and did a full deep dive into what is going on with the High Republic. So chapter 1 is about called the Legacy Run. We have this captain. I think it's Heda. How would you pronounce that? I took it as Heda. What about you?
I read it as Heda.
All right. So you have a captain named Heda. She runs her ship. She's very like militaristic. She has 40 years of experience. Her ship is named the Legacy Run. The ship has 62 years of experience. So this thing is like on its end of the nuts and bolts. We have a very experienced captain. So Heda and her crew are on this like boring transport run, carrying more than 9,000 passengers to the Outer Rim into hyperspace. And what's really important to note about the first chapter is that hyperspace hasn't been fully developed yet. The calculations aren't there at all, and nothing can be trusted in hyperspace. So I think that's a really big point. And who is Heda? Like Heda from what I saw, has a ton of heart. She opted to pay her crew in full when they learned that they were like unable to complete a mission with this like giant saberfish. So she actually took the fish back to its homeworld when it got sick when they were in transport. So during the first chapter, we see Heda kind of make her rounds. She's interacting with children. There's some really interesting character development within, just one short chapter, which I found really interesting. So we see Heda head to that captain's chair, and surely enough, the alarms go off, and something's blocking the hyperlane, and right in front of them is some sort of object. Captain Heda takes the manuals, takes control of the ship, avoids whatever's blocking them, and sure enough, the ship kind of like loses. It's very old, and everyone kind of dies. There's a part where it says Heda pauses and thinks about the children she interacts with, hoping that they're okay. She looks at her first officer, and the officer salutes her as the bridge gets ripped apart. So moving forward, the destruction of the ship, the Legacy Run, is kind of what kicks off, a much larger series story in this series. So that's how it ended. Everyone dies. And, the first two parts of the High Republic and A Test of Courage, it's all coming out kind of starting January 5th. So that's kind of a summary of what happened in Chapter 1. Loretta, what were your quick takes of Chapter 1?
First off, I really appreciate the attention to detail and the character development, because, I mean, in a short, however many pages, however many paragraphs, I got a little bit attached to this Captain Heda, and I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but being a fan, my favorite character from Star Wars Rebels was Hera, and Captain Heda was a former fighter pilot, so her heart, her demeanor was something I related to. Her she seemed very steadfast as well, knowing that this could be the end, but she did her best to try to save the ship. And for it to abruptly end on that, like a little bit of a cliffhanger, but like it felt very cinematic. I got very much invested in Captain Heda, and I think, it was 2 lines of dialogue she gave to her lieutenant, like, take the command, I'm going to do my rounds. And she was like, yes, sir. And then the second salute that the lieutenant gives her, he doesn't even finish. It gets cut off mid-sentence. It it was an honor serving, and then it just gets cut off. Like, obviously, the lieutenant was going to say it was an honor serving with you. Like, they knew they were going down. And I think in that short chapter, it captured a lot of like powerful details. I'm excited to read the rest of it. I'm definitely going to be invested in Light of the Jedi.
I think it looks really interesting. And what like is most intriguing for me is that Outer Rim. If there's anything I know, it's that Star Wars. What crushes about Star Wars is the Star Wars and Western themes. You know, those are two things that absolutely go hand in hand. That was absolutely something that made The Mandalorian so effective. And I kind of see this, like the Outer World seems like we'll soon be revisiting those similar themes. You know, we're going to see some like very like, you know, like scrap yards and these like old towns in the Outer Rim. But maybe, who knows? I don't know. But the other takeaway I had was nothing about this chapter, for me at least, you know, screams Star Wars to me. And that, I think that is what makes this, you know, first chapter so intriguing. You know, I'm definitely intrigued that like the writer's having some creative freedom with the material. There's going to be books coming out, and I like the thought that these writers are kind of be, you know, independent of each other, just creating the mythos and creating, you know, some of these major concepts in the High Republic. And that's really exciting, you know. So I'm excited to learn more about the Republic and what goes down about the Outer Rim. Any other takes, man?
I would say it's a great way to grab somebody's attention, especially being someone that I'm not gonna lie, I haven't read in a while, but you know, due to your recommendation, I gave it a shot and I really enjoyed it. I think that, you know, kind of like with like Alderaan, or maybe even seeing in the sequel trilogy when you see the New Republic get blasted away, it really grabs your attention when a tragedy unfolds, and then kind of like building that mystery of like, okay, who did it? Why did they do it? And who are these mysterious Jedi that we haven't met yet? The cover alone sold me. I'm super excited to meet this Wookiee Jedi. He has a really cool saber with a hilt, not like Kylo's. It actually has like an actual solid hilt. I thought that looked really cool. And the other Jedi as well, they look really interesting. I'm intrigued to find out more about them.
Yeah, going like piggybacking off of what I talked about Head of Ship and how this is like not Star Wars. I don't know about you, man, but the image I got from Head of Ship, the Legacy run, was like kind of like the stepchild of like Pitch Black and Event Horizon. This old super like overrun ship that's like beaten down, and it sounded like almost like a horror movie. And that is what caught my attention. I was like, that sounds really cool. You know, Pitch Black, you see these people like in their chambers and all that kind of stuff. And, you know,
underrated film, by the way.
Ooh,
I love that movie. I love that movie.
Yeah, and another thing like that I thought of, like we saw a lot in the Clone Wars about how, you know, the people, the last season of the Clone Wars, where the people of Coruscant kind of no longer believed in the Jedi. These were people that no longer believed that the Jedi had the people number one in their interests. And this is a time period where, you know, everyone thinks, you know, holds the Jedi to be very well regarded. And, you know, how that comes to be, how that progresses into that, you know, we've got years of that obviously to explain, but that's kind of what I want to explore, because we saw that really kind of be a main subplot of season 7 of the Clone Wars. We saw Ahsoka and Rafa and the Martez sisters. That was really, really fascinating. I think that's a really fun topic that needs to be further fleshed out. Any last hot takes, man?
Oh yeah, man. I think I agree with you. I think that the Clone Wars and even like episode 2 and 3 of the prequel films, I love seeing the Jedi at their quote unquote peak, but I think we definitely saw their decline there. So I think it'll be refreshing to see the Jedi in their heyday, so to say, like, because I mean, knowing they've been around for so long, and we saw them literally with Order 66, we saw the end of their era. So I think it'd be different and fun to see a more lively and more like flourishing Jedi. So,
all right, absolutely. So make sure you follow my man Loretto on Twitter at Marcellus Durden. Check out Movies Matrix on Twitter at Movies Matrix and moviesmatrix.com. Check out the upcoming novel, Star Wars Light of the Jedi, The High Republic by Charles Soule. Comes out beginning of January. I'm assuming the coronavirus is not going to impact book release. I hope not, fingers crossed. But for Loretto, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
Peace out.
I am Iron Man.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
The Force will be with you. Always.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun.
I do this all day. What's but a smile on that face?
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
Some men just want to watch the world